Hi Jabulo, how you doing?
I'm good, Z. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well, my guy. So I have some questions concerning your experience at the Mandela Fellowship. You care to share with us?
Yeah, sure. Let's take it away.
Excellent. So the first question I have is, what inspired you to apply for the Mandela Fellowship?
Yeah, so I have a couple of colleagues and friends that have been part of the Mandela Washington Fellowship program. And at first, I must admit, I was a bit skeptical about doing it. But after having been inspired by this particular friend to do it, I decided to give it a shot. But also, it was also me seeing the impact that it had on his career and to his life. So I really was intrigued and decided to also apply.
You mentioned impact on his career. What type of impact?
So it's really broad, but mostly, him having been able to expand his contacts, not only US contacts, but also contacts around the continent. So he was collaborating with fellows from different countries, and so I also wanted that for myself, to expand my contact just beyond the Zimbabwean borders.
Excellent. Talking about how you also wanted that for yourself, how has the program impacted your leadership style and philosophy thus far?
So there was a book that we read during our academic course with Professor John Doggett that is called The Disciplined Entrepreneur, and it's something that he always emphasized and doubled down on throughout our time with him. The fact that we're supposed to be disciplined. I think I always knew the importance of discipline as an entrepreneur, but I think that it was a good refresher, and it really helped me to be able to first of all recognize the importance of discipline within my work, but to also foster the same spirit in the people that I work with. And another thing that Professor Droggett, kind of inspired in me was, he said, you should not treat your employees as necessary evils, meaning that it's very important for everyone that is a part of the organization, everyone that you work with as an entrepreneur within your startup or within your organization, to feel like they belong, to feel like they are part of something great, and they're building that. So I think those are two great lessons that remain with me today.
Talking about leadership and discipline, what would you say are your greatest strengths and weaknesses as a leader?
That's always a very hard question to answer, because this kind of inward-facing questions are very difficult to answer. But I think my strengths would have to be, I think I'm pretty persistent as an entrepreneur. I think it's one of my greatest qualities, and I've heard other people around me confirm that, so it must be true. But I think in terms of weaknesses, I think it kind of goes back to the first question that you asked. I think discipline has always been, it has always been very difficult to be disciplined and focused, because you sometimes have so many things going on, and you're tempted to kind of attach yourself to a lot of things. So I think that's one area that I've constantly have to work on, to be more disciplined and focused on specific tasks, not just kind of attach myself to everything, and kind of let go of things and let other people take care of other tasks. So yeah.
Okay, let's bring it back home to Africa. What do you think are the most pressing challenges facing Africa today?
Yeah, so I think sort of general answer to that would be poverty, a lack of access to water, to food, education. But I think the, the most pressing problem in my view is, so if I was to sort of give a psychological framing, I would say that it's a lack of hope, or a kind of chronic pessimism towards the future is, I think, our biggest challenge. And I think, so the way to mitigate that is to, encourage young leaders, especially the kind that have been through this program, to kind of inspire that hope in people, and kind of, help bring back optimism about the future by building products and startups that kind of fuel that positive, or that sort of change in mindset. So that's my take on that.
I'd love to hear it. Talking about hope and optimism, how do you envision contributing to Africa's development and growth?
So my work has been essentially in two fields, right? In sort of the software and tech space, as well as most recently in media. So with software, the goal has always been to, improve or to bring about efficiencies to businesses through various software or various technological tools, and also to kind of build the sort of future that we all want. But then when it comes to media, the interest for me has always been to tell our stories as Africans, and to be able to kind of take control of the narrative that people have towards Africa. So I think both those roles to me, or both those kind of roles or interests, are what sort of shapes who I am as a person, as an entrepreneur. And so it is really about, building technology that helps solve our problems, and also through media trying to change the perspective or the story, the African story, as most people know it.
You covered quite a bit there, but let's get more intel or more details into what role do you think young leaders like yourself can play in shaping Africa's future, apart from what you have already mentioned?
Yeah, so I think as far as our involvement as young people is concerned, I think it's really, we need to realize that, it's like the human body, right? You have the head, with the hands, and they all serve their functions. They don't all do the same thing, but they all serve their functions, to make you who you are. So in the same manner, I think as young African leaders, we will have diverse talents and diverse capabilities, and we ought to deploy those in order for us to bring about a change within the continent, and to be very bullish about bringing out that change by creating employment for our fellow young Africans, and also just contributing towards the economic growth of our countries and of the continent as a whole. So I think it's really about us embracing ourselves and the different roles that we have, and sort of doubling down on that to kind of inspire the sort of change that we want, or to build towards this sort of common vision.
Got it. In this age of exponential change, what skills or knowledge do you think are essential for effective leadership in Africa?
Yeah, so I think obviously digital literacy is a very important thing, especially in this kind of 21st century. People need those digital skills for us to be able to get ahead So be it, programming or just what we're doing here, being able to create content like this. So I think, digital literacy is a very important skill to have, and also, communication, more generally speaking, I think is also a very important skill that we ought to have, because I think over and beyond building or making products, we also need to be able to be very effective at communicating and selling what it is that we build. So I would say those are the very important skills to have. You need to be a brilliant communicator. You also need to be tech savvy, as they say.
Got you. I love specifics. So how have you applied your skills and knowledge to drive positive change in your community or organization?
Yeah, so I've been here for a few weeks now, and most of those things are kind of still work in progress. But as far as, extrapolating my learnings from the fellowship, I think it has always been, a lot of things are in the works, and I sort of can't go in detail. But I think, in the immediate, I think what I've been able to do is to also just kind of encourage other entrepreneurs that are within my circle, and also sort of change a few things about how we do things back at my office. And so I think a lot of it has had to do with me sharing my experience with the people that I work with. But as far as the specifics of what I'm doing or what I'm going to be doing, it's sort of too soon to divulge, but yeah.
I hear you. So tell us, how do you think the Mandela Fellowship Network can support your future endeavors?
So the fellowship obviously has a lot of opportunities that are available to the alumni, and one of the recent ones is the reciprocal exchange that allows us to be able to continuously foster our relationships with US citizens. And I think programs like that are definitely very important, because I think, as most fellows have told me, that have been part of this program, is that you get to see the impact after the program. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how I can connect more with other fellows in different jurisdictions. And I've already started reaching out to some of them, and we have a lot of things in the pipeline. So I'm really excited to see what this sort of network what sort of impact it will have on my career going forward.
Interesting. How do you build and maintain professional relationships in those networks?
So, it's really just about staying in touch and giving updates. I mean, it depends on the kind of relationships, but for me personally, it was a wide range of people. Some that showed interest in my work, some that wanted to work on a specific project, or some that wanted to kind of invest in Zimbabwe or something like that. So it has always been, keeping them updated about what's going on and just staying in constant communication.
That sounds about right. So let's reel it back to your vision and future plans. Would you care to tell us what are your long-term career goals and aspirations?
So just before the fellowship, my friend and I started Lingua Media, and so I'm in the software business, but that's the media space has been something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, because like I said before, I think not enough of our stories are being told, and it's very important for us to change sort of the narrative that people have about Africa in general, but also to kind of encourage the next generation of young African leaders by exposing them to other people that have made it, that were in the same situation or in the same setting as they were. So I think my goal ultimately is to be able to bring African stories to life and encourage, the next generation of young entrepreneurs and innovators out there.
Excellent stuff. So, what impact do you hope to make in your community or industry in the next 5 to 10 years?
So, one thing that I've been mentioning two fields that are of interest to me. So, with my work with Mugonat and in the software business, I think one thing that has always been important is to build local solutions for local problems. And what we mean by that is we want to be able to build our own technology. And so I think for me, what a good future would look like is where we have less technological reliance on foreign nations and build our own technological capabilities. And I think that at Mugonat we are well on the way to achieving that. And as far as telling stories, I think I really hope to kind of help change the narrative or the perspective on our continent and kind of present it in a more positive light. So I think those are the two sort of things that kind of wake me up every day in the morning.
And how do you plan to leverage the Mandela Fellowship experience to achieve those goals?
So throughout the fellowship, I've built very interesting relationships with people that share the same interests. Fellow Mandela Fellows, and also other people that I met thanks to the fellowship. So I think it's mostly leveraging those networks leveraging those networks and kind of using the exposure that I've had to continue doing the work that I've been doing.
And what value do you see yourself giving back to that fellows community or network?
Yeah, so one of the things that we as fellows have been trying to do is we obviously have groups and where people share their different expertise and all of that. And beyond me getting leveraging from those networks, I also hope to be of assistance to other fellows in their projects and in the different work that they do. So yeah, I hope to also fulfill my part as being an asset and a tool for someone else who has I know all of them are doing amazing things, and I would also want to be a part of that or assist them in achieving those goals.
You talked about being a part of those good things your fellow colleagues are doing. Can you describe a successful collaboration or partnership you have been part of thus far?
So again, it's kind of too soon, but most of those things are in the works. So I've connected with quite a number of fellows, and so one from my institute who's kind of working in the software edtech space. So we're working on a collaboration where we provide him with the kind of technology that he needs to execute on that, and we sort of work together to build that in this country. I'm also working with other fellows on one fellow from my institute as well, who is also in the same. So I've been working with a lot of people in the edtech space. So and also on the consultancy side, so it's very broad at this point, but I've made contact with a lot of fellows that I would be working with in the future on various projects.
Excellent. So to someone who is interested in joining the Mandela Fellowship program, what would you say to them?
They should apply, and I know it's a very long application, it's quite cumbersome, but I think it's definitely worth it. The fellowship is life-changing, and even that is an understatement. I think the relationships that you forge within yourself. So, people, I think when they think about it, it's often, connecting with the US and things like that, which is true, but I think the greatest value is really connecting with other fellows from different countries. And I think that's such an amazing experience, and that's I would definitely encourage someone who is considering it to apply for the fellowship.
Any tips and insights on the application?
So I'm gonna give a very sort of lazy tip, which is that you should be very authentic, because sometimes at least that's what I did. So, and there's no one size fits all approach, but there's always a temptation or inclination when you're doing this kind of applications to try and go overboard, even in terms of the language that you use. But I think it's very important to be authentic and to be very specific as far as describing the work that you've done, because some of the questions or some of the questions have to do with your previous experience and the work that you're currently doing. It's very important to be very specific. But yeah, I think the sort of the one liner there would be, you have to be authentic and try to be very specific in your application.
Thank you for that tip and insight. Yes, I agree, authenticity always wins. Yeah, but like you said, it's not a one size fits all. So Njabulu, we have come to the end of this short interview of sorts. Thank you for sharing your experience with us, and we hope and pray that you are successful in your future endeavors. All the best.
Thank you, man. Love it.
Excellent. Cheers.
Okay.